TIFU by joining a swinger party to save my marriage. Turns out my wife didn't need saving. So, here's how I accidentally found out my wife has been living a whole ass second life without me. Anna and I have been married for 6 years. Together for 8. We met in college during a group project. She was the type who always had her shit together, organized, confident, driven. I was more of a wing it and hope kind of guy. She liked that I made her laugh. I liked that she kept me in check. Things were good, stable. But somewhere along the way, like it does for a lot of couples, things got dull. We weren't fighting, not really. But we weren't connecting either. Our sex life, which used to be fun and spontaneous, turned into scheduled missionary on Friday nights. I blamed stress, work, life. She said she was tired a lot. I didn't push. Then, out of nowhere, Jared, a guy the first work with, drops this nuclear-level casual bomb during happy hour. We were talking about marriage stuff, and I joked that Anna and I should try a threesome just to shake things up. He goes, "Dude, why not try a lifestyle event?" I said, "A what now?" He grins and goes, "Swinger party. My wife and I go sometimes." Totally changed our dynamic. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He told me about this group he and his wife were part of, clean, organized, drama-free. Very chill, very respectful. He made it sound like it was just another version of going to the gym together. Only with more nudity. At first, I laughed it off. That's not us. We're not that adventurous. But on the way home that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Was that something people actually did? Was that something we could do? The next day, I brought it up to Anna, expecting her to shoot it down. She didn't. She didn't even look that surprised. She just tilted her head and said, "Why? Would that turn you on?" I kind of panicked and backtracked, like, "No, I just heard about it, sounded wild, figured I'd ask." Ha ha. But she didn't laugh. She looked thoughtful. She said, "Honestly, I thought about it." I stared at her. "Wait, what?" She shrugged. "I mean, not seriously. But I've read some stuff. We've been in a rut. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to explore something new together." That together part stuck out. It made me feel better. Safer. We set rules. No pressure. Go together. No full swap unless both of us agreed. And if one of us ever felt uncomfortable, we'd leave immediately. 2 weeks later, we were in the car, driving to a gated neighborhood on the far side of the city. Anna wore this black dress I'd never seen before. It was elegant but intense. Low cut, high slit. I couldn't stop staring. She looked incredible, confident. I felt underdressed and awkward. She squeezed my hand at a red light and said, "You okay?" Yeah, I lied. The house was huge, modern, probably $1 million place easy. We knocked, and a woman in a velvet robe answered. She was maybe mid-40s, stunning, with silver hair and perfect posture. She welcomed us in like we were old friends. Inside, it looked like a cocktail party from a movie. Dim lighting, soft music, people holding glasses of wine, laughing in small groups. Nobody was naked. No one was grinding in a corner. Just vibes. People greeted us with warm smiles. No leering, no sketchy vibes. It felt surprisingly normal. Anna slid easily into conversation. She introduced us as first-timers. Everyone was kind about it. A guy named Rick told me, "Good on you both. Not everyone's brave enough to explore this side of themselves." I was halfway through my second glass of wine when I started noticing how comfortable Anna was. Like, she wasn't just being polite. She was relaxed, radiant, flirty. A woman leaned in and asked her, "Back so soon?" Anna laughed and said, "Yeah, couldn't resist." I paused. "Back so soon?" I leaned in and asked, "You know her?" Anna said, "She probably just recognizes me from the message boards." Whatever that meant. Oleg Komarov, the 28th of May 2025 2002, then Rick came over. Tall, tan, movie star smile. He greeted Anna like an old friend, kissed her on the cheek, and said, "Missed you last week." Anna laughed and said, "Had to be good for a bit." He turned to me and said, "So you're the mysterious husband. Glad you finally brought him." Finally? He clapped me on the back and walked off. That's when it hit me. The familiarity. The subtle nods. The usual spot someone mentioned earlier. The way people looked at her. Talked to her, like she was one of them. I felt cold. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to, but I wasn't ready to blow up in a house full of naked strangers. So I watched. Watch how she moved through the rooms like she belonged. Watch how people deferred to her. Watch how she smiled at certain people like they shared private jokes. She was glowing. Alive. I'd never seen her like this. And the worst part? I liked seeing her like this. It made me feel like I didn't know her at all. We left around midnight. Nothing happened between us and anyone else. We didn't even kiss anyone. But emotionally, it felt like something huge had shifted. She fell asleep quickly when we got home. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. That was the night I realized our marriage wasn't in a rut. It was a rerun I'd been watching alone, thinking it was the pilot. And I wasn't sure I wanted to keep watching anymore. I didn't sleep at all that night. While Anna was curled up beside me breathing softly like nothing had happened, I stared at the ceiling, reliving every second of that party. Every glance, every smile, every casual touch she exchanged with other people, like they were old friends. Like she belonged. The next morning, she acted like everything was normal. She brewed coffee, checked her phone, hummed some pop song as she stood in the kitchen. I sat at the table watching her, trying to recognize the person I married. I couldn't. I decided not to waste time. How do you know Rick? I asked. She turned, blinked, then smiled like it was no big deal. Oh, from previous events. Events? I echoed. What kind of events? She hesitated, then slowly sat down across from me. The same kind as last night, she said quietly. I've been to a few before. Just to explore. Nothing serious. I stared at her. When did this start? She looked down at her coffee cup. About a year ago. A year. I swallowed, trying to keep my voice calm. And you didn't tell me because. I didn't know how to, she said. At first, I just went out of curiosity. Then it became something I did for me. I thought maybe it would fade, but it didn't. I stood up, pushed back from the table. My hands were shaking. So what, you've just been sneaking off to these parties behind my back? I wasn't sneaking, she said. I never lied. I just didn't share. I laughed bitterly. That's the same fucking thing, Anna. I wanted to tell you, she said, her voice cracking. But I didn't want to lose what we had. You've been so distant. I thought maybe this could be something we'd do together. Eventually. I walked out of the house and drove aimlessly for hours. I didn't answer her texts. I didn't want to scream. I wanted to think. By the time I got back, she was asleep again. Just like the night before. Like her world hadn't shifted. But mine had, completely. The next day, I started looking through her stuff. Her phone, her laptop. I'm not proud of that. But the way she'd minimized everything made me feel like I was losing my mind. I needed to see it. And I did. There were messages from people I didn't know. Coordinating rides. Asking if she'd bring toys next time. Jokes I didn't understand. A group chat named The Pool People. Photos. Her in lingerie. Her smiling with other couples. Her on someone's lap. All timestamped from the last year. I sat there for almost an hour just scrolling, sick to my stomach. I didn't know what was worse. The fact that she'd been doing this, or that she looked genuinely happy in every single photo. Oleg Komarov, the 28th of May 2025 2002, that night I confronted her again. You've been living a second life, I said. You're practically a regular at these things. Why the fuck didn't you just tell me you were done with me? I'm not done with you, she said immediately. That's the thing. I still love you. You love me? I said. You've been doing this for a year, Anna. You don't love me. You love being single with a ring on your finger. She started crying, but I didn't care. At that moment, I didn't even recognize her tears. They felt rehearsed. She said she wanted to fix it. That she was finally ready to be honest. That she hoped our experience at the party would open the door. What the hell kind of marriage requires a secret sex life to start being honest? I started sleeping in the guest room. She respected that, didn't come in. We texted during the day like coworkers who needed to communicate for a project. Short, neutral, polite. A week later, she knocked on the door one night and said, I made us an appointment. For what? Therapy. I agreed to go. I didn't see any other path forward. I didn't want to just walk away without understanding how we got here. The first session was rough. The therapist asked what brought us in, and I said, apparently my wife's been swinging for a year and I only just got the invite. Anna winced. The therapist nodded slowly and said, that sounds incredibly painful. Understatement of the century. We unpacked a lot. How she felt unseen. How I'd retreated emotionally years ago. How she looked for excitement outside because she didn't think I wanted to look for it with her. At one point, Anna said, I wanted to tell you so many times. I even wrote you a letter and deleted it. I just couldn't imagine you wanting to know. You're right, I said. I wouldn't have, but that didn't make it okay. The therapist encouraged us to be honest going forward. To rebuild trust one brick at a time. I didn't say it out loud, but I wasn't sure there were any bricks left. We kept going to therapy. Every session was emotionally draining. Some days I left feeling hopeful. Other days, I felt like I was grieving someone who hadn't died but had just slowly disappeared over time. I stopped looking at her the same way. Every moment felt like a performance. Every smile like a mask. I couldn't tell what was real anymore. She started cooking more, cleaning, wearing perfume again, touching me more. It felt like she was trying to reel me back in, but I wasn't sure I wanted to be caught. We didn't talk about the parties anymore. It became a silent agreement. That chapter was closed. But I didn't believe it. Not really. I had this image burned into my mind, her in that black dress, kissing Rick on the cheek, laughing like a woman I'd never met. The scariest part? I missed that version of her. I missed the woman she became when she wasn't my wife. And that terrified me more than anything. When we first sat on that couch, facing a woman with a notepad and gentle eyes, I didn't think therapy would help. I thought it would be some kind of structured breakup, a slow, clinical autopsy of a dead relationship. But Anna wanted to try. She looked me in the eye and said she was ready to be honest. So I said fine, let's be honest. The therapist asked us to talk about trust. What it means to us. How we've experienced it. I told her trust used to mean assuming my wife wasn't going to a sex party while I was working late debugging someone else's shitty code. I didn't mean to be snarky. It just came out. Anna winced but didn't respond. She said she betrayed me, yes, but she also betrayed herself. She talked about years of feeling invisible. How I stopped noticing when she dressed up. How I'd answer work emails during dinner. How she wanted me to want her, not just as a partner, but as a woman. I said I wasn't a mind reader. That I can't respond to needs that aren't voiced. She said I always looked tired. That I seemed happier alone. And maybe she was right. Oleg Komarov, the 28th of May 2025 2002, after each session, I left feeling like someone had run me out. Like my skin didn't quite fit anymore. At night, I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, wondering how much of our marriage had been real. Week 3 was the first time I cried. I didn't plan to. The therapist asked, "Do you still love her?" And I said yes. Without hesitation. And then I fucking cried. Anna looked shocked. She reached for my hand, and for a moment I let her. But it felt wrong. Like touching a stranger who reminded me of someone I used to know. She cried too. We sat there, leaking all over ourselves, while the therapist gently handed us tissues and murmured about emotional courage. Week 4, things got weird. We were supposed to write letters to each other. Letters we wouldn't send, but would read aloud. I wrote mine in a single sitting. It wasn't poetic, it was raw. I told her how betrayed I felt. How every laugh she shared at those parties felt like a knife now. How the version of her that existed there, without me, felt more real than the one I had at home. She read hers second. In hers, she wrote that she still fantasizes about me. That even at those parties, even while with others, she would sometimes think about me, wish I was there. That she brought me to that last party because she wanted me to see her. The real her. That maybe we'd reconnect in this strange, terrifying way. That broke me again, because in her eyes, this whole thing was a twisted gesture of love. And in mine, it was a betrayal so deep I wasn't sure we'd ever climb out of it. We argued in the car afterward. Not yelling, just cold, clipped words. I asked why she didn't invite me sooner. She said I wasn't ready. I asked who made that decision. She said she did. I said that wasn't her choice to make. She said maybe she was wrong. Every conversation felt like a chess match where I didn't know the rules. She always seemed one move ahead, calmly explaining her feelings while I fumbled to name mine. And somewhere in all this mess, something else started happening. I started remembering the version of me I used to be. The one who flirted with her in lecture halls. Who wrote dumb poems. Who once cooked her dinner and burned the pasta. And she still kissed me like I was worth something. That guy was long gone. And I wasn't sure who replaced him. Therapy didn't fix us, but it cracked something open in me. I started noticing things I hadn't before. How she still wore the necklace I gave her on our 3rd anniversary. How she still made my coffee the way I like it. Strong, splash of oat milk, no sugar. How her laugh, the real one, still made my stomach tighten. One night, she came into the guest room and just sat on the edge of the bed. We didn't talk. She didn't try to touch me. She just sat there. After a while, she said, "I know you hate me." I said, "I don't." She asked, "Then what are we doing?" And I didn't have an answer. The truth was, I didn't hate her. I didn't even fully blame her. I blamed us. For getting lazy. For avoiding the hard talks. For assuming love was a light switch we could flick back on anytime. The therapist said healing isn't linear. That trust rebuilds like a muscle. You work it, you rest it, you strain it again. I wanted to believe that. But some nights, I'd still wake up and wonder who she was texting. I'd see a notification flash on her screen and feel my gut clench. It's like I had PTSD from her privacy. At session 6, the therapist asked if we wanted to recommit. Not marriage vows, just intent. Do we intend to stay in this? Do we want to try? Anna said yes. I stayed quiet for a long time. Then I said, I want to try. And that was the most honest thing I'd said in months. After the 6th therapy session, after I told Anna, I want to try, we slid into something new. Not reconciliation, not closure, more like emotional probation. Oleg Komarov, the 28th of May 2025 2002. We acted like a couple trying to heal. We went grocery shopping together. We watched documentaries and made comments like nothing had ever happened. We even started having inside jokes again, the kind of dumb humor that only makes sense between two people who've shared years of quiet Sunday mornings and airport fights. But the air between us had changed. Every nice moment felt like it came with an asterisk. This doesn't erase what happened. This doesn't mean we're okay. She suggested a weekend away. Just us. No distractions. A change of scenery. I didn't want to go. But I also didn't want to say no. Saying no would be like pulling a thread I wasn't ready to watch unravel. We booked a cabin in the woods, cozy, rustic, full of manufactured charm. She brought wine and those bath bombs she loves. I brought a book I knew I wouldn't read and a pit of doubt in my stomach. The first night, we cooked dinner together. She danced around the kitchen in socks, glass of wine in hand. She laughed when I nearly set the garlic bread on fire. I laughed too. It felt decent. Later, we sat in front of the fireplace. She leaned on me, and I didn't pull away. She kissed me like we hadn't kissed in months. I kissed her back like I was trying to remember why I ever stopped. We had sex that night. It was good, familiar, but the entire time, my brain was playing two tracks at once. This is intimacy, and this is an act. Afterward, she curled up on my chest and whispered, "I've missed this." I didn't know what to say. So I said, "Me too." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. The next morning, she made pancakes, played music, danced barefoot like she always used to. I took a picture. She smiled at me across the counter and for a second, I felt a pulse of something close to love. Back home, we fell into a rhythm. Thursday therapy, Saturday takeout. Some nights we touched, other nights we didn't. We didn't talk about the lifestyle. It became the invisible elephant in our marriage, massive, quiet, and carefully avoided. But cracks started forming. She still kept her phone face down. Still jumped a little when it buzzed. Once I caught her texting late at night. She said it was her sister. I didn't ask further. I didn't want to know. I started keeping my own secrets. I joined a gym, started chatting more with Leslie, the woman at the smoothie bar. She was quick, witty, and sharp in a way Anna used to be. One afternoon, she asked, "Are you married?" I froze, then said, "It's complicated." She nodded like she'd heard it before. Probably had. Nothing happened, not physically, but the emotional spark, just the idea that someone new saw me, wanted to know me, hit hard. Meanwhile, therapy became more and more like homework. Assignments, prompts, write about your partner's strengths. List things you're grateful for. Acknowledge your own shortcomings. I did the work, but it felt like performance. Like we were both trying to win a game where the prize was a broken version of what we used to have. One night, Anna came home late. Her makeup was smudged, her smile too careful. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just dinner with Beth. We talked forever." "Cool," I said, then walked into the kitchen and poured myself a drink I didn't want. Later, in bed, she reached for me. I let her, but all I could think about was how far we were from where we started. The therapist asked us what we envisioned for the future. I said, "I don't know yet." Anna said, "I still believe in us." I didn't respond, because here's the truth. I believed in the version of us that didn't exist anymore. That couple, the one who built IKEA furniture together without fighting, who drove across the country singing off-key, who cried during the same dumb Pixar movie, died quietly somewhere in the last year. Maybe longer. And now we were ghosts. Familiar, affectionate, but out of sync. Still sharing a bed, but no longer dreaming the same dream. Oleg Komarov, the 28th of May 2025 2002, Jared, the friend who first told me about the swinger world, called me out of the blue. We met for a beer. He looked tired, old in a way I hadn't noticed before. "She left," he said. "Why?" She said she didn't recognize herself anymore. Said she felt like she was acting in someone else's life. That stuck with me. Later that week, I stood in front of our bathroom mirror and tried to imagine what I looked like to Anna. If she saw someone worth staying for, or just someone easier than starting over. That night, we lay in bed, backs to each other. She whispered, "Do you still love me?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "I don't know." She didn't cry. She didn't speak. Just pulled the blanket tighter and turned away. In that moment, I felt both terrible and honest. Like a door had opened, and I was finally seeing what was on the other side. And I didn't know if I wanted to walk through it. There was no explosion, no dramatic last fight, no teary goodbye with suitcases in the rain. Just quiet, a kind of resignation that crept in like fog. You don't notice it at first. Then one day you realize you can't see 5 feet ahead of you. 2 weeks ago, we were watching TV. Some home renovation show where couples argue over backsplash colors like that's their biggest problem. I was on one end of the couch. She was on the other, wrapped in a blanket she crocheted back when things still felt warm between us. She asked, "You good?" I said, yeah, that was it. That was the entire conversation. And yet it felt like the loudest silence we'd ever shared. Later that night, I stood in the hallway and stared at the door to our bedroom. I used to rush through that door. Now I hovered, unsure if I belonged there. I turned, walked to the guest room, and shut the door without a sound. The next morning, Anna made 2 coffees. Left one on the kitchen counter. No words, just routine. I drank it anyway. A week later, she suggested we move. Fresh start, she said. Different energy. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just blinked. She started searching listings, organizing finances. She liked one place in particular, lots of light, near the park. She called it airy. I thought it looked empty. I said it was fine. She signed the lease. We packed slowly. 1 box a day. Half our stuff we donated. Half we didn't know what to do with. There were entire drawers of objects that neither of us remembered buying. A life assembled by default. One night I found an old photo album wedged in the back of a closet. Us at a lake, at a wedding, at a concert where we were drenched in rain and still laughing. I sat on the floor and flipped through it while she was asleep. And I cried, quietly, like my body was grieving someone who hadn't died, just vanished. The next morning, she found the album still open. She didn't mention it. I started taking long walks. No destination, just movement. I'd stop at this park bench 3 blocks from our building and just sit there. Sometimes I'd text Leslie. Sometimes I'd stare at the sky and wonder what it would feel like to start over. Not with someone else, just, from scratch, as me. Leslie never crossed a line. But the connection was there. She asked things Anna hadn't asked in years. She listened differently. It made me feel wanted. Seen. And I hated that it wasn't my wife who made me feel that way. Therapy session 10 was a checkpoint. Our therapist said, let's talk about intentions. We each filled out a card. Anonymous, even from each other, until we handed them over. Anna's said, I want to keep fighting. I still believe in us. Mine said, I want to stop pretending this doesn't hurt more than it heals. We sat in silence after reading them. The therapist said, it's okay to want different things. It's okay to not know. But that didn't make it hurt less. At home, we barely spoke. The day before the move, she asked if I'd packed everything. I said I had. She looked like she wanted to say something else. But she didn't. Neither did I. Oleg Komarov, the 28th of May 2025 2002. The morning of the move, I woke up early. Watched the sun hit our balcony like it always did. I drank coffee standing up. I didn't turn on music. Boxes lined the hallway. Our life, disassembled and compartmentalized. I packed the last of my stuff in the car. Left a few things behind on purpose. I didn't know if it was habit or hope. She stood by the door, arms crossed, sweater sleeves pulled over her hands. Are you coming to the new place? She asked. I don't know, I said. Maybe. She nodded. Her face didn't change. Not much, anyway. Just this little flicker in her eyes, like something broke, quietly. She walked me to the car. No tears. Just stillness. At the driver's door, she touched my arm. I don't regret us, she said. Even now. I nodded. Me neither. Then I got in, closed the door. I didn't start the engine. I just sat there. Minutes passed. Maybe more. I looked at the steering wheel. At the rearview mirror. At the house behind me, full of laughter and betrayal and second chances that never quite landed. I didn't know where to go. That's the worst part. I wasn't choosing between her and someone else. There was no affair, no fantasy life waiting on the other side of town. It was just me, sitting in a car, too scared to stay, too hollow to go. Eventually, I turned the key. The engine hummed. I could have pulled out, driven away, but I didn't. I turned it off, let the silence return, and that's where I am now. Parked in the driveway. Still, I don't know if this is the end. I don't know if we'll unpack those boxes or divide them. I don't know if she's sitting inside waiting or already walking away in her own mind. But I know this. Sometimes the hardest part isn't choosing between love and loss. It's accepting that sometimes they're the same thing.